Okay, this section is really interesting. This is at Alexandria. That's what this section is titled, again, in the life of Jesus. And he is still the teacher, chaperone of this young man, Ganid. Um, they entered into, after the first survey of the city's chief attractions, university, museum, library, the royal mausoleum of Alexander, the palace, temple of Neptune, theater, and gymnasium, Gonad, who is the father of Ganid, addressed himself to business while Jesus and Ganid went to the library, the greatest in the world. Here were assembled nearly 1,000,000 manuscripts from all the civilized world: Greece, Rome, Palestine, Parthia, India, China, and even Japan. In this library, Ganid saw the largest collection of Indian literature in all the world, and they spent some time here each day throughout their stay in Alexandria. Jesus told Ganid about the translation of the Hebrew scriptures into Greek at this place, and they discussed again and again all the religions of the world. Jesus endeavoring to point out to this young mind the truth in each, always adding, but Yahweh is the God developed by the revelations of Melchizedek and the covenant of Abraham. The Jews were the offspring of Abraham and subsequently occupied a very land wherein Melchizedek had lived and taught, and from which he sent teachers to all the world. And their religion eventually portrayed a clearer recognition of the Lord God of Israel as the universal Father in heaven than any other world religion. Under Jesus' direction, Ganid made a collection of the teachings of all those religions of the world which recognized a universal deity, even though they might also give more or less recognition to subordinate deities. After much discussion, Jesus and Ganid decided that the Romans had no real God in their religion, that their religion was hardly more than emperor worship. The Greeks, they concluded, had a philosophy, but hardly a religion with a personal God. The mystery cults they discarded because of the confusion of their multiplicity and because their varied concepts of deity seemed to be derived from other and older religions. Although these translations were made at Alexandria, Ganid did not finally arrange these selections and add his own personal conclusions until near the end of their sojourn in Rome. He was much surprised to discover that the best of the authors of the world's sacred literature all more or less clearly recognized the existence of an eternal God, and were much in agreement with regard to his character and his relationship with mortal man. I'll pause here for just a minute. Jesus and Ganid spent much time in the museum during their stay in Alexandria. This museum was not just a collection of rare objects, but rather a university of fine art, science, and literature. Learned professors here gave daily lectures, and in those times, this was the intellectual center of the Occidental world. Day by day, Jesus interpreted the lectures to Ganid. One day during the second week, the young man exclaimed, "Teacher Joshua, you know more than these professors. You should stand up and tell them the great things you have told me. They are befogged by much thinking. I shall speak to my father and have him arrange it." Jesus smiled, saying, "You are an admiring pupil, but these teachers are not minded that you and I should instruct them. The pride of unspiritualized learning is a treacherous thing in human experience. The true teacher maintains his intellectual integrity by ever remaining a learner." I'm going to skip down to this section. Among the many men with whom Gonad, that's the father again of Ganid, transacted business was a certain Jewish banker, Alexander, whose brother Philo was a famous religious philosopher of that time. Philo was engaged in the laudable but exceedingly difficult task of harmonizing Greek philosophy and Hebrew theology. Gained and Jesus talked much about Philo's teachings and expected to attend some of his lectures, but throughout their stay at Alexandria, this famous Hellenistic Jew lay sick abed. Jesus commended to Gained much in the Greek philosophy and the Stoic doctrines, but he impressed upon the lad the truth that these systems of belief, like the indefinite teachings of some of his own people, were religious only in the sense that they led men to find God and enjoy a living experience in knowing the eternal. And we say that, well, in A Course in Miracles, it says that many things can point to the truth. Many things can point to the divine infinite creator, to our Father in heaven. They're pointers to the way, or pointers to the path, or pointers to the truth. And I think I have commented on that before, that all kinds of faiths, all kinds of religions, all kinds of texts can point the way if someone is truly seeking God or seeking absolute truth and understanding. This section is called Discourse on Reality, and I think we'll go right into this. Okay. So here it says that Jesus had a long visit with one of the government professors at the university who lectured on the teachings of Plato. Okay. The teacher and his pupil had a long heart-to-heart talk about Plato's doctrines. That's Jesus and Gained. While Jesus gave qualified approval of some of the Greek teachings, which had to do with the theory that the material things of the world are shadowy reflections of invisible but more substantial spiritual realities, he sought to lay a more trustworthy foundation for the lad's thinking. So he began a long dissertation concerning the nature of reality in the universe. In substance and in modern phraseology, Jesus said to Gained, the source of universe reality is the infinite. The material things of finite creation are the time-space repercussions of the paradise pattern and the universal mind of the eternal God. Causation in the physical world, self-consciousness in the intellectual world, and progressing selfhood in the spirit world, these realities projected on a universal scale, combined in eternal relatedness and experienced with perfection of quality and divinity of value, constitute the reality of the Supreme. But in an ever-changing universe, the original personality of causation, intelligence, and spirit experience is changeless, absolute. All things, even in an eternal universe of limitless values and divine qualities, may and often do change except the absolutes, and that which has attained the physical status, intellectual embrace, or spiritual identity, which is absolute. The highest level to which a finite creature can progress is the recognition of the universal Father and the knowing of the Supreme. And even then, such beings of finality, destiny, go on experiencing change in the motions of the physical world and in its material phenomena. Likewise, do they remain aware of selfhood progression in their continuing ascension of the spiritual universe and of growing consciousness in their deepening appreciation of and response to the intellectual cosmos. Only in the perfection, harmony, and unanimity of will can the creature become as one with the Creator And such a state of divinity is attained and maintained only by the creature's continuing to live in time and eternity by consistently conforming his finite personal will to the divine will of the Creator. Always must the desire to do the Father's will be supreme in the soul and dominant over the mind of an ascending Son of God. I'm just going to skip down here to this section. Personality is that cosmic endowment, that phase of universal reality which can coexist with unlimited change and at the same time retain its identity in the very presence of all such changes and forever afterward. Life is an adaptation of the original cosmic causation to the demands and possibilities of universal situations, and it comes into being by the action of the universal mind and the activation of the spirit spark of the God who is spirit. The meaning of life is its adaptability. The value of life is its progressibility, even to the heights of God consciousness. Misadaptation of self-conscious life to the universe results in cosmic disharmony. Final divergence of personality will, from the trend of the universes, terminates in intellectual isolation, personality segregation. Loss of the indwelling spirit pilot supervenes in spiritual cessation of existence. Intelligent and progressing life becomes then, in and of itself, an incontrovertible proof of the existence of a purposeful universe expressing the will of a divine creator. And this life, in the aggregate, struggles toward higher values, having for its final goal the universal Father. Only in degree does man possess mind above the animal level, aside from the higher and quasi-spiritual ministrations of intellect. Therefore, animals, not having worship and wisdom, cannot experience superconsciousness, consciousness of consciousness. The animal mind is only conscious of the objective universe. Knowledge is the sphere of the material or fact-discerning mind. Truth is the domain of the spiritually endowed intellect that is conscious of knowing God. Knowledge is demonstrable. Truth is experienced. Knowledge is a possession of the mind. Truth and experience of the soul, the progressing self. Knowledge is a function of the non-spiritual level. Truth is a phase of the mind-spirit level of the universes. The eye of the material mind perceives a world of factual knowledge. The eye of the spiritualized intellect discerns a world of true values. These two views, synchronized and harmonized, reveal the world of reality, wherein wisdom interprets the phenomena of the universe in terms of progressive personal experience. Error, evil in parentheses, is the penalty of imperfection. The qualities of imperfection, or facts of misadaptation, are closed on the material level by critical observation and by scientific analysis, on the moral level by human experience. The presence of evil constitutes proof of the inaccuracies of mind and the immaturity of the evolving self. Evil is, therefore, also a measure of imperfection in universe interpretation. The possibility of making mistakes is inherent in the acquisition of wisdom, the scheme of progressing from the partial and temporal to the complete and eternal, from the relative and imperfect to the final and perfected. Error is the shadow of relative incompleteness, which must of necessity fall across man's ascending universe path to paradise perfection. Error, again, the word evil is after it in parentheses, is not an actual universe quality. It is simply the observation of a relativity in the relatedness of the imperfection of the incomplete finite to the ascending levels of the supreme and ultimate. Yeah. Although Jesus told all this to the lad in language best suited to his comprehension, at the end of the discussion, Ganid was heavy of eye and was soon lost in slumber. They rose early the next morning to go aboard the boat bound for Lasea on the island of Crete. But before they embarked, the lad still further questioned to ask about evil. And I'm going to save that for the next one because we're 15 minutes in. So we'll speak more about evil in the next video.